Man, we got a lot of talking going on across the NFL right now, but here is where the NFL playoff picture stands. If the postseason were to begin today, we talked about the Bucs being atop the NFC. The Packers maybe haven't looked as frightening as we thought they were going to be. They get the 5 seed there. The Lions in action currently, but they currently sit at 2. On the other side, though, here's where things get kind of weird because the Colts currently holding on to the 1 seed in the AFC. The Patriots squarely in the postseason picture as well, too. A big win for Drake May over the Saints. Certainly a lot to talk about, including the Steelers. So we're going to get into all of that as we welcome you back here to Game Day Recap. And fellas, I want to pick the conversation up with the Colts because it seems like every week we're reaching for reasons as to why this team has been successful. They continue to win. Daniel Jones continues to operate well. He and Peyton Manning, now the only quarterbacks in franchise history to have led a Colts team to a 5-1 record. So, I mean, he's doing pretty good, Pete, but one thing that we talked about was the schedule. I get it, because when you look at who they've won, it's kind of not convincing.
And also, please never mention Daniel Jones in the same sentence with Peyton Manning.
I have to. That's what the numbers are telling me, Pete. He and Peyton Manning have led Indianapolis to a 5-1 start this century. That's the 2 quarterbacks that have done it.
I get it. We have to mention it, but it's almost, come on, let's not do that. But the reality is they've won the games they've had to win. And that's all you do. You play your schedule and hope you win. Now, having said that, when you look at who they beat, Dolphins stink. Titans, no offense, stink. Stink. The Raiders aren't very good.
They stink.
And the Cardinals, who they beat without their starting quarterback today. So, and they beat the Broncos on that field goal or whatever late in the game they shouldn't have lost that game. So when the reality is we don't know how good they are yet. But all they're doing is winning the games in front of them. Next week, we see a big challenge for them at the Chargers. We'll know more about the Colts when they go play the Chargers. And so far, I'm not going to criticize. You guys play in the league, you know. You just do what you're supposed to do. And what they're supposed to do is win the games on their schedule, and so far they're doing it. So you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, in this game, even to start in pregame, you lose your starting corner in Mooney Ward to a concussion in pregame. And then your backup quarterback fractures his orbital bone warming up.
By the
so,
way.
these are all things you can't account for, right? But they steadied the ship and found a way to win a football game. We're looking at a team, we're talking about them being 4 for 4 in the red zone. That matters the most, right? Because they were 50% on third down today, 4 of 8. But to get points, to get touchdowns in the red zone, that's what matters the most. And you have that animal in the backfield. You turn around, you hand him the ball. You had a total of 150 yards on the ground. Again, another performance for Daniel Jones where it's not all on him. There are times where he has to make a play, he has to make a throw, and he comes through. But again, he is surrounded by a ton of talent. And then that defense is built to play with the lead and be able to go hunt with that defensive front that they have, and that's what they were able to do today.
I'm glad you brought up Jonathan Taylor because he's clearly the best running back in the league. And I think that when we look at this Colts team, and we're a little unsure of how good they really are compared to the competition that they've played, well, when they start playing tougher games, what are they going to do? They're going to keep leaning on that bell cow in the backfield who has a league high 35 missed tackles. He's leading the league in rushing. He's in the top 2 or 3 in total touchdowns. I mean, when things get hard, when the going get tough for Daniel Jones, for the Colts, they're going to hand the ball to their workhorse franchise back, who is Jonathan Taylor. And he will allow Daniel Jones to continue to do what he's doing right now, which is, like Rand just said, make the throws that he has to make the plays that are just out there that need to be made. Most of the work is going to come from this ground game. That is what Indianapolis has hung their hat on for a very long time, since they drafted, even before they drafted Jonathan Taylor. So I think the reemergence of him as being the best back in the league and it being on display, that's going to help this Colts team when they get into a little bit of muddier waters throughout the season.
How much do you think coaching has played a part in the season that the Colts have had this year? Because I can remember a time last year where we were talking about Shane Steichen's job being on the line, and now they're sitting here at 5-1, and they've got a serviceable quarterback and an offense that's really working, Rand.
Yeah, so it's one of those deals, particularly with Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones kind of had whatever happened in New York, right? And then he goes to Minnesota, and he gets to spend time with KOC. We calling him the quarterback whisperer now, right? Because a lot of guys have gone there and kind of resurrected their careers. But now Shane Steichen has a quarterback that can run his system. in everything he wants to do in his system. Whereas you take an Anthony Richardson, and Shane Steichen doesn't get let off the hook because he was there when they drafted him and a part of drafting him. But we're talking about a young quarterback in Anthony Richardson that had never called a play in the huddle until he got to the National Football League. And then for him to be thrusted into this offense where there's a lot on his shoulders, he wasn't quite ready for it. But now you bring in a veteran quarterback in Daniel Jones who can handle all this, having came under David Cutcliffe's tutelage. This has been a great fit, and Pete talks about it all the time. The fit matters for these quarterbacks, for any player for that matter, but fit matters, and I think Daniel Jones has found the perfect fit for himself.
Before we get all excited about the Colts, and I mean, look, they've done a nice job so far. But let's not forget. Well, let's not forget the backup quarterback threw for over 300 yards, was on the 10-yard line at the end of the game, taking shots to go win the game on a team that last week lost at home to the Tennessee Titans. Okay, so that's who they beat today. So yeah, we give them credit for the win. They did just enough. But again, it's not been as pretty as that record would indicate. They have work to do to prove to me, and this is the week. Go to the Chargers, beat the Chargers, and I'm going to sit here next Sunday and I'm going to applaud you and say,
for real.
He won't.
Remember when I started the show by saying Pete hasn't been spicy enough for us? There he is.
All he needed was the
real.
cameras to turn
You
on.
win next week, I'm going to sit here and say you're for real.
And you know what's so crazy, though, as he sits here and says all this stuff? Pete is one of the main guys, because Pete is a smart guy. He's realistic. For everybody at home that wants to know, he's a realistic guy. Pete's one of the main guys that will sit here and tell you how hard it is to win football games in the National Football League. He will tell you that up and down all day long. And so now we're having a conversation about, well, I mean, before we get too excited, I mean, let's just look at the list of competition. It is so hard to go 1-0 every single week in the National Football League because you are playing against the best of the best. So I will tip my cap to the Indianapolis Colts for the job that they have done so far in doing just that.
Did that feel like you were looking in a mirror there for a second? A pretty good little Pete Prisco impersonation.
I didn't mind that.
It was not bad.
Pete is our resident told you so guy.
Yes,
He's got to have that one default thing in there to say, I told you so.
You know why?
It's all right, man.
No, you know
It's all
why?
right. It's
Like
all right.
I always say, there's quarterbacks that are playing at this level, and then sometimes they go down to that level. But if you're usually a middle-of-the-road quarterback, you'll find your way into that level.
What do you
And then
say? What do you
you
say
are what
every
you
week?
are.
There you go.
are what you are.
There it is. We're going to get that on a T-shirt, by the way. I wonder how does that change when you look at Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers? Because kind of a similar boat where you look at the schedule and you look at what he's done, and he's done well. 38 passing touchdowns after turning 40, and not a lot of people can say that. But it kind of feels like there's an asterisk in Pittsburgh, Pete.
Yeah, there is a little bit again, but you look at their division. I mean, they're sitting really in a great spot. I mean, who's a threat in that division right now to them? Anybody? Are the Ravens, as they're constructed right now, a threat? Now, if Lamar Jackson comes back and he's healthy and he's Lamar, schedule softens, maybe they become a threat. But right now, there's the difference between the Colts and the Steelers. The Steelers have no threat to them right now in that division. They look like they're going to run away with their own division. How good are they? We don't know. But I will say this, Rodgers has brought life to that team in a lot of ways. I think the players respond to him. I think you're seeing the defense getting better again, and there's questions. You talk about age on a defense, go look at that defense. There's age all over the place, and they're getting better as well. So I still have my reservations about the Steelers, but they will be in the playoffs in large part because they're in that division.
I think they will too. I think that, to your point, Aaron Rodgers has brought a different life and a different energy, and it's kind of surprising at this age and this stage of his career, he's getting guys like DK Metcalf ignited, a coach like Mike Tomlin, who's been around the block for some time, ignited. The only thing I will say, although Aaron Rodgers is playing well, the offense is moving the ball, they're able to run, they're able to throw, they've got DK involved. The biggest thing that sticks out to me is third down. And when you look at it, on third down, today they were 5 of 13, which is not good. They're only 30%. They only have a 36% conversion rate on offense all year long, and that's not good. And especially for a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who's seen every day, every defense, every coverage pattern on third down that you can imagine. And then on the flip side, they're giving it almost 43% conversion rate on defense. Those numbers should be flipped, and that'll be a telltale sign for this Pittsburgh Steelers football team about how good they actually are, and that's going to be a key stat that is going to determine wins and losses as the schedule gets harder as you get closer to the playoffs.
Looking at their schedule here, they're going to take on the Bengals Thursday Night Football later this week, so a short schedule, maybe a test there, but then they've got the Packers, the Colts, the Chargers. Rand, when you think about this team, to Pete's point, it seems like the division race doesn't feel like a problem right now. How do you evaluate this Steelers team in the AFC, given what we just saw from the Colts and some of these other teams that we'll talk about later today? How do you evaluate them?
Yeah, I think to Pete's point, the jury's still out, right? And what you want to see out of them right now is what we're getting in terms of the Ravens are down, because Pittsburgh was not expected to be in the hunt in the AFC North, excuse me. But they now have a lead. The Ravens are banged up. And so now you just want to win football games to give yourself enough cushion, because you mentioned that schedule and we showed the graphic. They're facing a gauntlet coming up, and now we're really going to see what this team is made of. And Damien talked about it, the third down percentage, but where they've made their hay has been in the red zone. Their red zone touchdown percentage coming into the week was 69%, which was 8th in the league.
One quick question. Do you guys think that the Steelers and Colts are Super Bowl contenders, yes or no?
No.
No.
Okay,
No.
We'll leave it there. We'll wait till next week to see what the Colts can do against those Chargers, and we'll see how you're feeling. But before we get there, got to hit another break here on Game Day Recap. The Chargers, no chargering for them this week, Pete Prisco. Justin Herbert with another game-winning drive, now tied for second when it comes to his career. We'll talk about how they took down the Dolphins and some concerns across the league next.